Thank you for coming. First, let me just say that I know that it's late in the day, but this was truly the first opportunity we've had to speak to this, as the member was discharged late this afternoon and was afforded the same judicial processes as a member of the public prior to this information being released. As you're aware, the Calgary Police Service has charged one of its members following an investigation into alleged off-duty firearms offense. In August of this year, the service received information regarding the alleged sale of a shotgun to a person who did not have a required license, a possession and acquisition license. It was also alleged that the newly acquired shotgun was not being stored properly at the purchaser's home. After an investigation into these allegations, the service, in consultation with the Crown Prosecutor's Office, determined charges were warranted, and a 2-year member of the Calgary Police Service was charged with unauthorized possession of a firearm and contravention of storage regulations. The firearm was legally held by its previous owner. To ensure transparency to the public, we are releasing the details about this incident. This investigation stemmed from a domestic matter, and to protect the welfare of the family involved, no names are being released by the service. The member, who is 26 years old, is currently on administrative leave, and his status will be continually reviewed. I'll take any questions that you may have here.
This seems like an extremely minor incident to be bringing forward to the public. Really, why? Like, the average person, we would never hear about this, I don't think. Improper storage, or just tell me why you guys decided to.
Well, it's a great question, and I'll tell you why. It's to be transparent. So one of our officers has been charged after a criminal investigation, and we felt that we needed to come forward with this information and not withhold it.
Does it not, or does it at all, maybe act as a ding towards morale, or does it hold maybe officers to a higher standard? What do you think are going to be the backlash or repercussions from CPSN from this?
Well, I think in this particular case, so we have we have a single member here who is being charged with a criminal offense. I think that we have so almost 1,100 officers in the area that I oversee that go about their daily business day to day, and I don't see that impacting that morale. I think the issue for us is that we need to get this information out and say that we are transparent. But that said, I want to also make sure that you understand my support for my officers that go out every day doing the job that they do, right? Going into harm's way, taking calls from the public and dealing with the public.
Was this an accidental, like I didn't have the paperwork, or was this like a malicious, like I want this shotgun for a totally other reason?
You know what? I can't answer that right now. That forms part of the investigation, and it's going to form part of what's going to come out in the court through the court judicial process. And the officer is afforded that opportunity, right, to speak in the judicial process. If I go outside of that at this point, it would probably jeopardize the ongoing process.
Is this a first offense for this officer?
To my knowledge, yes.
What can be the penalty for this kind of charge?
Okay, so you're looking at what they call use offenses under the criminal code. So this one is section 86.2 of the criminal code, which is contravention to storage regulations, and then 91.1, which is unauthorized purchase of a firearm without a possession license. So it can carry up to 2 years in jail. It's a hybrid offense, so Crown has the option of going either by way of indictment or summarily in the prosecution.
Ultimately, what does this do for the officer? Is this career changing for him?
Well, so, right now he's on administrative leave. He'll be on administrative leave for 7 days, and we're going to evaluate over that period of 7 days what his status is, ability to work, and whether or not suspensions occur, right? So that'll be evaluated on an ongoing basis as this moves along through the court process.
When did he go on administration leave?
It's starting today. 7 days starting today.
Anything in his career prior to this that warranted looking into?
Nothing that I'm aware of at this point. So.
Was the weapon used in a domestic assault?
No, it was not. So I want to make that really clear here. So we started out with a domestic investigation. There was no charges outside of that domestic investigation, and we have as any of files that we have any allegations of any of our service personnel that are involved in domestics, it goes to our domestic conflict unit. The domestic conflict unit does a thorough investigation. During that domestic investigation, all right, these allegations came forward in regards to the possession of the firearm. That's how that came out.
So we're talking about transparency here, but we're not naming the officer. Those two things seem very contradictory.
Okay, another great question. So here's the piece on this. So normally, as you had pointed out before, was that we would normally never, if this was in the public realm, we would never have brought this forward and made any release. We normally don't during domestic investigations because of the impact on the family. In this particular case, we've taken one step, we've gone one step further. We've actually come forward and said, you know what, one of our own is being charged with criminal matters. So we've gone that extra step.
But doesn't the public have a right to know?
Well, I think in this case, again, here is the impact that you have because it started as a domestic-related incident. I think you have to look at the exasperation of what it does to your family situation. So again, I just go back to my previous comments. I said, you know, we've gone one step further than we normally would with any other domestic criminal investigation.
But the domestic incident, like you said, seems to be like a totally separate thing.
Correct.
So why would that impact naming him under these charges?
You
It just
kn-
seems like the domestic incident was brought
Yeah.
into it, so we didn't have to name him.
Yeah, and I guess I have to say to you too, so this is an off-duty incident, right? Member's not in the execution of his duty. I make that very clear. And with the domestic ramifications with the family, we made the decision after, you know, lots of consultation internally, I can tell you, you know, we don't make these decisions lightly, not to name the officer.
Is he treated any differently as opposed to someone with 20-plus years or a senior officer? This guy's only been around for 2 years. Is it any different than a senior officer as far as disciplinary action is concerned?
No, you know what? The discipline would be the same, right? So, in fact, what we'd look at now is we'll go another step with this because he'll be looking at internal investigation too after the judicial court process is completed. And that would be, so myself, as a 36-year member, superintendent, I'd be facing the same process under the Police Act as any other, as a member that's 6 months or 2 years.
Is this the same weight as, say, an officer losing his firearm stolen from a vehicle, or because he's supposed to be responsible for that? Is it the same weight in terms of?
Yeah, so the piece would be this. Again, under the use offenses, it would be similar charges, yes. So if you go through that from Section 85, I believe it's to Section 96 of the code, use offenses, it would be very similar in charge categories, so.
Is CPS reviewing firearm training with recruits with regards to licensing?
You know what, every time something like this happens, we go through a big process, right? And that is one part that we look at, is always looking at our training standards, looking at our training program, right? And we have to also look at this, is this a single incident, or is it a recurring incident issue for us? So we'll look at all those pieces.
What led to the investigation? Was it the domestic?
Yes, so again, what started this off was a domestic conflict investigation, so.
Has this member ever been in trouble before?
Not that I'm aware of.
And the domestic incident, just to clarify, was not criminal in nature?
That's correct. So just so I'm very clear on this, at the end of the investigation around the domestic, there was no criminal charges. And I want to really emphasize too here on these firearms-related incidents that came out as the investigation was rolling along, and that's nature of our what we do every day. We come across other parts of investigations that we went to, right? And I have to really emphasize, these are allegations, right? They still have to be proven in court. So the officers afforded the same provisions under the charter as any other person in the public, right? You have a right to innocence until you're proven guilty in Canada. So.
Can you explain the licensing and why the member couldn't buy it?
So I can't go in depth into why he wouldn't have been able to purchase it, because that forms part of the criminal investigation, and again, through the judicial process, it would potentially prejudice the officer. But what you need, if you're going to purchase so the long gun registry is gone, which we know. But what happens is you go to purchase a firearm, you need a possession acquisition license. And you need to make that application in order to have that. I think that's probably as simple as I can make it, explain it.
Something he didn't have.
Well, that's again, the nature of the allegation, right? So,
Is it more of a shotgun, like a hunting rifle, like for duck
you know,
hunting?
I have to tell you, I don't know the answer to that because I've not seen the firearm and I haven't, I can't answer that, other than what the investigators told me that was a shotgun.
Okay, it's not a modified,
Far as I know, so again, if you go back to my original statement there, the firearm was legally held by the previous owner, so it was a legal firearm.
Do you expect more from like does your constables and stuff like that in situations like this? Like you expect more because they are trained to deal with firearms. You think they're held to a higher standard?
Well, you know, I think that as police officers, we're always held to a high standard, right? And we have to gauge ourselves as police officers, our conduct, and that includes myself, day by day, right? How we go about our business, and I think in this particular case, again, there are allegations, and we have to see how this is going to fold out through the judicial process.